Hello, everybody. It's Scott Dillon here. We're back in the SAP Cloud Platform Garage. We have one session left to do this year, but today we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to do a kind of a special guest type of arrangement with Gunther Rothermel, which we'll introduce in a second. And today is going to be basically me firing some questions that I've gotten from some customers via Twitter, via email, some social channels like that. So we're going to bring them on. We're going to answer some questions. As you can see, we've got the next session that we'll do just before we go too far. The last session of the year will be in November 20th. We're going to cover the SAP Cloud Platform Application Programming Model with one of the folks from our dev group. Should be an exciting session. We're getting lots of interest, and I know that I'm going to ask Gunther about this actually in a few minutes, about all the money we're putting into that and making it a really interesting framework. So that should be a good session. But without further ado, let's just take do a quick intro. So, of course, everybody knows me, or a lot of people know me. I'm from the Center of Excellence for SAP Cloud Platform for North America. My role is to kind of travel around North America and help customers understand where and when they should be using the various services. And today we're very excited and very privileged actually to have a gentleman join us. His name is Gunther Rothermel. He's the EVP, Head of Cloud Platform, and he joins us, I think, today from India. So welcome, Gunther. How are you?
Thank you, Scott. I'm fine, thank you. I'm indeed in India and had a long day with the team, but I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Wow, no, thank you for taking the time. And so maybe we can just start, Gunther, with a quick, before we get into some of the questions, how long have you worked at SAP?
Well, I will complete my 20th year, I think, beginning of next year. So I'm a long-time SAP fellow. And I held various roles, of course, in all of these years. I started in BW, the business warehouse, and then, of course, I morphed over more and more into leading development teams. And last years I've been very active in leading development teams as part of the cloud platform. So I'm around for quite a while.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And my impression of you, having had the opportunity to talk to you now a few times, is you're definitely someone that can walk the walk and talk the talk as it relates to the various SAP products and services, and especially now the ones that are coming out on Cloud Platform, which is why I think I'm excited to have you here. And as well, I'm sure the people that are signing on, they're looking for some insight into what we're doing with Cloud Platform. So thank you very much. So the first thing we're going to do that we always do, just to kind of get a feeling for, and you can't see this, Gunther, so we'll just take 30 seconds. We have a poll on the screen, and the poll is very simple. We do the same one every single session. Is this your first time attending an SAP Cloud Platform Garage event? And we give people about 30 seconds to answer that, because there's about a 30-second buffer. And then we'll proceed on, and we'll get into the questions that I've got formulated here for you. Maybe another 10 seconds. And how long, just while I'll buy some time here for the people to answer the question, how long are you in India for, Gunther? Are you there for the whole week?
Until Thursday, and then I move on to Singapore to meet some of our teams over there. So I'm doing the hop on Thursday.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're away from home for a few days by the sound of it. Okay, so we've got about a 50-50 split. So we've got 50 people that are new, 50 people that have been here before. So for those of you that have been here before, thanks for coming. And for those of you that are brand new, welcome to the Garage session. Okay, so let's get started right away. So Gunther, I answer this question probably 3 to 4 times a week, but it's always different when it comes from someone else, that's for sure. So the first question we have for you is, what exactly is SAP Cloud Platform from your perspective?
Well, the SAP Cloud Platform is our a platform for integration and extension/app building. So it's a very important foundation for us in many regards. On the one side, of course, it's doing this job for our customers and partners now, integrating business processes. It's the ability to extend business processes, And of course, it's an important platform for us internally also for teams to build new stuff, new business services, new applications on top of the cloud platform. So it's our approach for integration and extension as part of the SAP solution portfolio.
Right. So I think you mentioned a couple of things there. It's not only for customers, it's not only for partners, it's not only for SAP, it's a combination of all of those things and we're starting to see the usage as well. Okay, so another very common question that we get, in the field is when we take a step back, and I know you're very customer focused as well, where would be the top, 2 to 3 places where you see customers starting to use cloud platforms? So, we get lots of customers, they go out, I would say they dip their toe in the water, and they're like, oh my God, where should I start so that I have a gentle introduction to cloud platform, and then they kind of expand from there. But in your journey, because I cover kind of North America, you're on the other side of the world, where do you see people starting in your area?
Yeah, that's a great one. And there are indeed a couple of very common entry passes to the SAP Cloud Platform. One certainly is the notion of process integration, right? So customers start this, for example, either when they buy an SAP solution in the cloud. So, for example, when they buy a SuccessFactors and they want to connect SuccessFactors back to an S4, or if they want to connect a SuccessFactors back to the on-premise systems that they have. Of course, the more customers get into this journey of driving cloud integration, then the more they would expand the scope, typically involve more APIs, involve a broader scope, and then use the integration capabilities on a more strategic level. But that's a very common journey, and I would say at least 6,000 of our cloud platform customers are fully on that journey. We see very broad usage, and then of course, we are not only doing the classical process integration, but we have stuff like API management and other services where the scope is then again broad. So integration certainly one. A second one which I see is a lot of customers start the journey to cloud platform from a user experience perspective, and with simple cases like, I want to build a few UIs also against my ECC system on premise, or I want to extend the SAP solution portfolio with a few UIs or some mobile apps to complement what they want to do, and then that's a starting point as well. Of course, this also grows in the sense that we add in more entry points and access to several applications, several systems, and then we land at a holistic entry point to SAP applications and non-SAP applications sometimes. So UX and everything around it, building Fiori apps using UI5, and that whole notion is a very common entry point as well. Also, of course, we have a good bunch of our customers who use Cloud Platform for their journey to HANA, and because it's a very convenient, low entry level kind of access, and you can just get up and running and using HANA for some scenarios. So the whole world of data management and HANA is certainly also an important entry point. There are more, but what I see in general, Scott, is the cloud platform in the meantime is really rich. We talk about something like 58 major services with commercial relevance, but then there's actually hundreds of microservices behind this architecture. So we group these services to exactly provide this kind of entry-level solutions like integration, like user experience, or building apps on top of it to enable a very incremental, very also short project-based kind of entry to a cloud platform. That was a long answer.
No, but it was a good one, and I had so many questions as you went through there, but I just wanted to get your thoughts out before I poked at one or two of those. And so I think early days when we initially announced Cloud Platform, customers, even with some of their line of business solutions like SuccessFactors, as just one example, we had options for them. And what I'm seeing, at least in North America, is today when a customer adopts something like a SuccessFactors, the integration technology that we have in Cloud Platform is the de facto service that we recommend to customers and the default service that we support. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, I think we are in that state today. Of course, when we started a couple of years ago, and also due to the acquisitions, SAP had numerous integration technologies in the mix. Now, it's our goal certainly to have one tool for the job, and this is why we standardize on, for example, on Cloud Platform integration for process integration, and that's true for SuccessFactors, and it's true for S4 and other solutions in SAP. So we are on this path of standardizing on technology for these purposes as well. Yes.
Okay, that's really good. And I know that another common use case that you did mention was the ability to use Fiori and sometimes mobile applications that are now running in the cloud and then reaching into on-premise systems, which of course also requires a really solid end-to-end, streamlined, prescriptive approach to get information off of an on-prem system back to a mobile device or back to Fiori. And this is an area where I find customers really appreciate when we show them, hey, this is what's required. These are the steps that you follow. That's normally a very big value add because, of course, security-wise, the notion of exposing data from an on-prem system, it can sometimes be I guess scary for some customers. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. If we stay with the topic of mobile for a second, right? It sounds, extremely easy initially to just put, a mobile app on against an SAP system and just call a RESTful service or something. But, every one of you here on the line who has ever, done a mobile project and built a mobile application and connected it to an SAP backend knows that, handling the security topics well is important. Organizing offline, if you use it, it can be not trivial. And then also we make, of course, good use of our OData protocol for these purposes and handling Delta as well and so on. So the mobile services of Cloud Platform aim to make this aspect of a mobile project on top of SAP easier. And, what we see is typically 70% of effort in a project goes to back-end integration, security setups, and so on, and only 30, maybe 40% max go to the actual mobile app itself on the device.
Yeah, that's so true. It's a really good point you make, and I've got a whole bunch of questions for you if we have time at the end on mobile. So I'll just go on to the next area, but that's really good. Another area that I get poked at a fair bit is that in the market, I don't know, I don't have the exact numbers, but I would say there's a high percentage of customers that still are using ECC. And I think they're waiting until December, 31st, 2024 before they make the switch over into S4. So sometimes customers are of the opinion that, it's not a good time to use some of the SAP Cloud Platform tools. I'll wait until I go to S4. But we try to work with them to see if there are places where we can use ECC. So do you see that as a realistic option that customers can use SAP Cloud Platform with ECC?
Yes, I do. And let me talk about a few areas where we just recently doubled down on our investment into enabling ECC. Of course, what I clearly have to say here in front of this audience is, and the enablement of ECC for extensions and integration, of course, is by far not as good as it is for S4, because simply S4 is by far the more modern system, and on the architecture we have additional options, like in the space of eventing, for example. But in general, yes, we enable ECC as well, and there are things that you can do really well with the cloud platform together with ECC. I just maybe from the top of my mind talk about Steampunk and ABAP here right away. I know you wanted to touch on this later on as well, but what we see is sometimes customers want to bring their extension code or some ABAP homegrown stuff they build to the cloud for various reasons. Also make it future-proof for the architecture and landscape. And then this is one of the reasons why we put an ABAP container up on top of SAP Cloud Platform to enable this interaction, for example. And of course, another area, as I said earlier, right? A lot of customers build Fiori apps against an ECC system. Of course, then again, the question comes up of what OData services are available. Sometimes we have to help the customer to build a corresponding OData service, but there are best practices out and to make SAP Cloud Platform work well with ECC. Now, having said that, this is just the beginning. We need to invest more into this, and for example, we are looking at ways how we could also enable ECC to raise more business events so that we can do even more intelligent and responsive extensions against it. One customer called this once making it more chatty, and that's exactly what we also need to do. So that's a long answer, but absolutely, it's an important topic for us.
No, 100%. And it's funny. I mean, not funny. It's interesting for me because as I have the privilege and the honor of traveling across North America, meeting a bunch of different and large customers, and sometimes the decision tree for a big customer on how they make a decision on what technology to use is very different than a small, medium customer. So as an example, I was out visiting a fairly large oil and gas company a couple of weeks ago, and their opinion is, hey, we've got a lot of ABAP custom code, number one. But number two, more importantly for them, they've got quite a few ABAP resources at their disposal. So no matter what I told them about all these other different features and functions and how we're doing things, over here on the right, they're like, no, we're doing it all in ABAP. And that wasn't even a question. That's what they're comfortable with, and that's where they've been successful. So for them, to your point, having this ABAP container in the cloud is a huge value add. And then the connectivity associated with it, which then you can build things on top. It's quite compelling for sure. Okay, let me go to the next one. Okay, this is an interesting one. So this is another one that I get all the time. Is SAP Cloud Platform the same as AWS?
Oh, that's a fantastic one. I get this quite often as well. No, it's not. And what is very important for everyone on the call to understand is we have a very open strategy, and to us, AWS and Microsoft Azure and Ali Cloud and the others are important partners. And we enable the SAP Cloud Platform to run on top of these hyperscaler infrastructures, right? And quite frankly, on the engineering side, this is a lot of investment from our side because we need to port our stuff to, really optimize it for these different environments. But once we have done this, which we have, then it gives you flexibility. It gives the customers flexibility. I'm very happy to say here today that we completed a major part of our roadmap on this journey. SAP Cloud Platform is fully available on AWS and also on Azure. There are a few services we still need to add on Azure, but we are on a good way here. So it's absolutely not the same. We aim at providing differentiating value for integration, extension, app building, and a couple of other topics that we will touch upon in a minute, but all very very much focused on delivering business process outcome in an SAP ecosystem. So we work best when you have some SAP in the mix, right? But doesn't mean, by the way, we work for SAP only. We invested a ton of effort into enabling non-SAP, connecting via open connectors to all sorts of other APIs, and so on. So it works really well in the SAP world, but also across non-SAP. So the short answer is it's complementary to infrastructures like AWS. These are actually great partners to us. But when you look at an integration platform and you have SAP in the mix, or when you want to extend an SAP application and you have SAP in the mix, then SAP Cloud Platform is the right choice for you, and you can pick your infrastructure of choice.
And that's awesome. And so I'm going to tie that response, Gunther, to a question that we had here. The first one that's in the group chat, so we don't have to get to them all at the end, but this one's related. He said, Scott has announced on Monday, SAP intends to drive revenue through consumption of its PaaS services via Azure. How does it fit architecturally together? And so just building on the answer you just gave, it's typically not one versus the other. So to Gunther's point, Amaran, the way that would work normally is that if, let's say, I'll just take an example, mobile. So we talked about mobile a little bit earlier, and then notionally, the idea is you'd be using a mobile service that SAP provides that's using OData as linking to a backend. So that mobile service would in fact be running on Azure, and you'd be using that service from SAP, just happens to be running on Azure. So it's not one service of SAP versus another service of Microsoft or Azure. It's actually our service running on top of Azure. So that's how that would fit together architecturally. You'd be using our services on their Azure platform. Anything to add to that, Gunther? Does that make sense to you, what I just said?
Perfect. This is exactly what we do. And we're just, even broadening our partnerships with some of these folks as we speak. Just sharing my day-to-day practices with you here on the call. I mean, Microsoft and AWS and the others, they actually have technical people on site in our headquarters, and we work with them on a daily basis to make sure that we are optimized well for their infrastructures. And quite frankly, they have a very high interest to have us run on their infrastructures because we provide this differentiating value, and of course we have a large customer base of Cloud Platform where I think we just crossed 15,000 licensed customers. So exactly like you just said it, Scott.
Okay, awesome. I had another question lined up here, but I think we've already answered it. So let's talk a few things now, just with respect to tech ed. So I had also the privilege of attending SAP Tech Ed in Las Vegas, had a chance to meet a lot of customers down there. And one thing that came across, a little bit, some people were a little bit confused, is the question was, is there a difference between SAP Cloud Platform and the business technology platform?
That's a good one. Sometimes we tend to confuse people with our labels and terms.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of people on the call would agree. But this one is simple. The business technology platform is our term that we introduce for our overall technology stack at SAP. And the SAP Cloud Platform is a key part of it, delivering the application and integration part, and also the intelligence part, by the way, which comes in via Leonardo on SAP Cloud Platform. But of course, the other major pillar of the business technology platform is the HANA portfolio, data management, and analytics and planning. So basically, it's the combination of Cloud Platform, HANA, and analytics, which we call business technology platform. Why are we doing it like this? Because we want to express with a term, and not just with a term, but in software, in our focus and with our investment, that we focus on those parts where we add value to you, again, in the context of an SAP solution or landscape or an ecosystem in general. So that's why we do it, and I think it's very simple. It's just the combination of our technology.
That's awesome. That's perfect. So I've got another question here that I'll throw at you kind of randomly. That's not on our list, but from a customer, and the customer is asking. Let's read it here. Is there a benefit of running SAP Cloud Platform on the SAP data centers compared to AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform? So I will just preface the question to you, Gunther, but just in case people on the phone are not aware. So historically, we had this set of data centers. I would say that if you went to our Cloud Platform website, you could see something called Neo, and Neo was the label or the brand associated with the SAP, the data centers that were managed and run by SAP with SAP resources. And then probably going back, well, Gunther, I'm going to take a stab in the dark here and say about 24 months ago, there was a decision made by SAP to say, you know what, we're going to start moving the exact same services. So if you had mobile running on an SAP data center, we're going to take that, we're going to do some what I call a jiggery pokery, some magic, and we're going to make that exact same service run on AWS Azure, as an example. So same service running on two different data centers. So with that understanding, Gunther, let's now put it in context. Is there really any advantage, and maybe we can talk about where we're moving, is there any advantage if a customer signs up for SAP Cloud Platform today? What kind of direction would we give them? And that's a question that I had further on, but we'll do it now, and then we'll come back to Tech Ed in a second. Does that make sense, the question?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. We have to be really clear on this. So technically speaking, there is no major advantage that comes to my mind of running Cloud Platform in an SAP data center versus a data center by our hyperscaler partners. In fact, when you look at the investment that our partners are putting up into the infrastructure, of course, the scale, the regional availability, just the regional coverage in the sense of where they all have data centers and so on. I believe, a mainstream of Cloud Platform deployments will be consumed via our hyperscaler partners moving forward. Having said that, it's our clear direction to also enable Cloud Platform really well on the hyperscalers. And again, it's my opinion that probably a majority of customers will run on these infrastructures moving forward. Now, still, there is a good set of our customers who want to run in an SAP data center. It doesn't have a lot of technical reasons, but sometimes this is questions of trust. Sometimes this is, local GDPR-related topics, right? So, for example, we provide to European customers something which we call EU access only. And, if you're following the whole cloud world, more and more nations are spinning up local versions of this GDPR idea. And just being in India here at the moment, I know that there is a bill in Parliament in India here that they want to do something else, something similar over here as well. So it's more questions on your individual preferences, but definitely our mainstream is to go on hyperscaler infrastructures.
Gotcha. Okay, that's really good. I'll just throw, before I go into the Tech Ed questions, I'll throw one more question at you just because it's related to the integration topic we were just talking about. So Swapin, who was just asking about the roadmap and timeline to bring all existing integration tools into one umbrella. Now that's a big question, but he puts here as an example, CIG for Ariba, HCI, Boomi. So I will just start that and then I'll quickly pass it to you. So I guess from my perspective, number one, Boomi is not our technology. So we'll put that on the side for a second. And then normally when we talk about, CIG and then HCI as an example. So CIG, the way that I view it, it's kind of like a SaaS for integration for Ariba. So they're using our integration technology under the covers, but they put a wrapper around it so they have full control over how customers would use that because of simply the number or the value of the dollars that are passing through that solution on a daily basis, i.e. in the billions of dollars that pass through it. But Gunther, in general, in terms of bringing things together, how do you see that from your perspective?
So the example of Ariba you described in a perfect way, Scott. They are using CPI big time since many years now. We see this pattern of SAP application teams using cloud platform services in a headless way quite a bit. Headless way meaning not always via our UIs or also not exposed big time, but still there's a heavy use of SAP cloud platform technology internally big time. By the way, the development usage of CP has at least tripled if you count number of developers in the last 12 months. So this is all happening. And there could be multiple reasons why teams like Ariba want to use services in that way. One is they want to have it tightly integrated into their operations approach as well, or they have a special approach to multi-tenancy, which in the Ariba case is true, for example. So they wanted to have CPI follow their tenancy concepts, and that's totally valid. So this kind of usage is totally okay, because under the covers, technology is the same, and you can exchange content and this kind of benefits. Now, there is one question hidden in the other question, which is one of my favorites, right? And if I may interpret this question for a second, you could ask, will there ever be one tool for integration that covers it all? Now, no, there will never be one runtime or design time that covers all flavors of integration. When you look at process integration, data integration, event-driven integration, streaming, IoT-related integration, and so on, right? So if you are living in integration projects, you know that these different domains of integration have different requirements to the runtime and of course, a corresponding design time. So what we do, and I know this is absolutely industry leading as well, and we had long discussions with analysts about this, get us great confirmation. We have a set of services on the cloud platform for process integration, for API management, for eventing, and the like. And then this service is the best service for a certain domain. Now, of course, what you want to have is common characteristics and behavior, so that this is not just a list of things, but that they interact really well together. So we invest into common monitoring. What you would want to do is combine the different integration styles. For example, combine a process flow with a data flow and link this well on the design time and runtime. So think of this as, and this is why we call it an integration suite, a suite of services best for the jobs, but tightly integrated as part of cloud platform. That's, the idea and vision where we take our integration technology, and that's more and more used in SAP for the different teams. Now, is everything yet already fully aligned? No, this will take time because we have acquired and we make changes. But I think there you see a good consolidation going on.
No, I agree with you, and I think I love, people that know me know that I love analogies, and I think it's no different than when, as a homeowner, if you're going to tackle your favorite DIY project on the Saturday morning, you grab your toolbox and you're not using your screwdriver for everything. Like, sure, I could poke holes in the wall, but perhaps I prefer to use a drill, So I agree with you that we do have, different services that are there and they suit the specific needs. And from what I've seen, and I know I'm maybe a little bit biased because I work at SAP, but over the past 3 years, the offering has become quite comprehensive. So it's very rare now that we find ourselves in a situation where a customer says, can I do X? And the answer is, no, you can't. It's just a question of which service fits the bill best. But okay, let me get on the tech ed path here for a second. I got a couple of other questions in the chat, but I'll come back to those in a second, I promise, gentlemen. So there were three, when I went to Tech Ed, there was three things that I thought were kind of, and I always tell people, look for the square footage of the solutions on the show floor, because that's how you know where we're spending our money. But one of the places is digital workplace. And so maybe just, Gunther, if you may, just 1 or 2 minutes on what is your impression, or how would you best describe the digital workplace for people that are somewhat familiar already with cloud platform?
Yeah, it's a great topic. I'm very excited about it. And I have to say that this excitement is coming because I see customers excited. All of the sessions I had in the last weeks, whenever this topic comes up, it really gets lively in a very positive sense. So what the digital workplace does, and it's a working title, right? But what the digital workplace does is it brings together different technologies that in the space of UX, so things like a Fiori Launchpad, a cloud platform portal, a Jam, mobile services as well, into a consistent set of services that gives you an integrated yet very flexible entry point, or many entry points into SAP and non-SAP applications, right? Customers continued to come to us and say, well, okay, I have these different entry points. It's multi-channel. Some of the apps I have from SAP I want to access via the desktop. Some information I want to see on my mobile, but this all has to work together really well. So the digital workplace is an answer, and it's an evolution. It's not that we do everything new now. For example, when you invested into Fiori Launchpad, and you invested into Fiori apps and exposing this as tiles in the FLT, all of this can be right away taken and exposed in the digital workplace. But we also had to go one step further, right? So I think we are doing much better than we ever did on, having a great link between the mobile and the desktop world without trying to shoehorn everything into one technology, which might have been a learning of the past. But that's one aspect. The second aspect is, we need to enable non-IT teams also to author their pages and their content without having a Wild West kind of situation where everybody does whatever he or she wanted to do. So having a great end-user-centric cycle of authoring is also important. So the digital workplace is I think it's a blockbuster, and we have a beta program, and we unfortunately wanted to start just with 5 customers. We already have 40, and we had to reject a lot of beta customers for this one. So the excitement is really fantastic.
And you know what? And I would just say this on behalf of the customers: hurry up. And the reason I say that is because what we see whenever we sit with a customer and we talk about, common use cases like a vendor portal, supplier portal, dealer portal, immediately it becomes clear that you need things like the FLP, the inbox, some workflows, some unstructured content, and a way to author it. It's such an immediate, imminent need. So that would be great if you could have that ready by Monday, Gunther, maybe. I don't know. Just kidding. Kidding. Okay, let's move on. So the second one is the extension factory. Another popular question: what the heck is the extension factory, in 2 minutes or less?
Mm-hmm. We have 3 approaches how you can build apps or extend SAP solutions. One is we already touched upon ABAP, and if you have skills and reuse of code, that's a good option. Second option is the cloud application programming model. You just mentioned that there will be one of the upcoming garage sessions about this. This is our modern, very cloud-native, open development model, which is yet opinionated in the sense that it is optimized for HANA, CDS, Fiori, and other concepts. And to me, the cloud application programming model is also a mainstream approach how you build apps on cloud platform. But now, with the extension factory, we added one more option to this game, and where we said, okay, if you don't want to follow one of the two approaches which we just said, and you want to build apps almost in a freestyle way with approaches and IDEs of your choice, but then still customers ask us, can we connect these applications well to the cloud platform? And this is what the extension factory does. It uses Kubernetes. It uses a common management plane that connects this approach via Kubernetes to the cloud platform, so that it integrates with the rest of cloud platform. So it's a freestyle approach and connected to CP.
Okay, awesome, great answer.
Was that for me?
No, it was perfect timing. That was awesome. And so then, because we've got about 10 minutes or so left, and I want to get through a couple of the questions that are in the window and a couple of other ones that I had here. So one last one. So process visibility, it was a big focus on that at TechEd. Can you give us your thoughts on that? What you believe people should take away from, what exactly is process visibility? If you're doing an extension or you're building a new app on cloud platform, what does that mean really?
Well, process visibility first. You can apply even if you have not built any app or something on cloud platform. The idea there is to give you a new level of visibility into an end-to-end business process as it flows across different applications, SAP applications, ECC, S4, but also non-SAP. And it does, it gives you instance level visibility, so you can follow your orders, you can follow your different objects as they flow through the process. But it's event-based, by the way, so an event signals the start and the end of a process milestone. And having that in place, you can then easily also follow and monitor key process KPIs like duration per milestone or average duration, and also predict if particular instances will be late based on the average duration per milestone and so on. So it's actually it's a very simple approach, because what we learn from customers is, you don't want to monitor a very complex process as it is implemented. The reality is key processes include probably 5-6 milestones that you really want to track, but on instance level, real-time, event-based, and that's what process visibility does.
That's great. I mean, I did have one of the demos that I saw, which is very much in line with your description, is the gentleman that I was talking to. He layered the process visibility application on top of 3 or 4 existing workflows that were defined in the cloud, and all of a sudden he could see what workflows were at what step. It was pretty compelling to be able to get that kind of insight. Okay, so let me just move on here. So one of the questions that we have, which I think is an easy one for us to answer, is will hold on a second, will the API catalog, and I'm assuming Dan is referring to API@SAP.com, where we publish our APIs. Will the API catalog, he has the wording's a bit funny, but he said basically, will the API catalog, will the number of services in there increase?
Oh yeah, yes it does. Actually, I met the API Hub team here in Bangalore as well. And it increases. If the question refers to the number of APIs that we have in the hub, definitely yes. And SAP teams add new APIs basically every day, every week as we speak. I don't have the statistics in mind, but it certainly grows on a constant basis.
Yeah, that's my impression as well. I'm assuming that's what he means. I think he may just be left out a word or two, but I think that's the intent of the question. If it's not Dan, just throw us a note in the chat and we'll try to answer it. For folks that are Hajinder, if a customer's already invested in Azure Cloud, how can we take advantage of SAC or SAP Analytics Cloud, given that they're based on SAP Cloud Platform?
So SAC also follows the multi-cloud roadmap that we have, and I know that the colleagues from Analytics have a roadmap for Azure as well. I honestly don't know the dates by heart, but this we can find out. But there is a roadmap of the SAC colleagues to provide the embedded version of SAC, which is part of the SAP Cloud Platform also in Azure.
Okay, that's awesome. We'll continue on here. Okay, I think you'll like this one. So oftentimes we get, again, some of the folks that are on the phone today, they will, of course, have some of our technology installed on-premise already. And one of the common ones that we get asked about when we tell people about, these amazing integration services that we have in the cloud, whether it's API management, integration services, STI, sometimes there's some confusion around when they should use or continue to use process orchestration on-premise and when they should move to integration services in the cloud. Can we touch on that one for a few minutes as well?
Well, so the general rule is whenever there's a cloud system involved and you want to do a hybrid integration or cloud-to-cloud integration, then cloud platform integration is the tool of choice. But we also enable more and more hybrid scenarios where, PI on-premise and CPI, connects and has a complementary approach. So if you do on-premise to on-premise integration, then NetWeaver PI, of course, continues to be the choice.
Right, and that's what I tell customers, the same thing. So I'm glad to hear that we're aligned on that. But it is a popular question. So just to be clear, for everyone on the phone, unless Gunther corrects me, I've heard nothing from SAP that would indicate that we're getting rid of PI. That's not end of life, anything like that. It's quite the contrary. We've got thousands of customers that use it, and it continues to be evolved. But I think we're slowly trying to bring PI and the cloud-based version of process integration slowly more together. And we see this with the latest release of process orchestration, where you can install the cloud runtime as part of that install. So we're slowly bringing them together. Yeah. Would that be an accurate way to describe that, Gunther?
That's an absolutely accurate way to describe it. And of course, we will continue to support our customers on-premise as well. This is a very important part. We are currently working on a new roadmap for the NetWeaver version here. So absolutely, of course, over time, more and more use cases also will be covered on CPI. And as you know, the general direction for SAP is cloud first and so on. That's the strategic direction we are heading.
Right. Well, that makes total sense. Okay, we got about 7 minutes left, so I want to cover a few more. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because someone asked a question around Mendix, which I want to get to, and I want to start it with the following. So when we were down in Las Vegas, a lot of people got a first glimpse of something called the SAP Application Studio. So by a little bit of context for everybody on the phone, for the past 3.5, 4 years, we've been slowly evolving a tool in our portfolio called the Web IDE. Historically, it was only used for UI5 and Fury type development, but since then, it's grown quite a bit. And so today, if I log onto it as an example, I can do some of the CAP development that Gunther referred to. I can do workflow development. I can do business rules. There's a lot of things that Web IDE now covers. And then when people showed up at Las Vegas this year, Gunther, they got a quick glimpse of something called the Application Studio. So can you give your thoughts, maybe, like, what is your impression of this Application Studio, and why are we moving in that direction as opposed to, now that we have this Web IDE and it's quite good, why are we trending over this to another direction, it seems?
Okay, that's a good one. Now, the move to the application studio is also a result of the focus I just described earlier in this call. So we want to provide technology via the cloud platform to drive business outcome and business process outcome. If I apply this to the area of development environments, then it is clear we are not seeing or positioning ourselves as a plain vanilla provider of IDEs, right? This is not our purpose. But we, of course, want to give you very productive tools for developers to use our services to build integrations and extensions, for example, with the plugins you just described, workflow and so on. So at the same point in time, we want to be truly open. So one of the characteristics of Application Studio is that we, basically run this on the foundation of VS Code and making use of those IDE capabilities. But of course, we will continue to use and develop the plugins you just described on top of that environment moving forward. So clear focus on the value-added, development environments for our services that we provide on top of an open foundation. And I think that's a good story and a good approach moving forward. So all of the plugins that you know from Web IDE will run on the Application Studio as well, of course.
Right. And so when I met the folks in Las Vegas who were responsible for that development tool, in full transparency, I gave them a hard time because, I had gotten used to the Web IDE. And now I'm like, hey, guys, now I have to transition, like all customers will, over. But I have to say, and I probably have to write them a note, I have been playing with it a little bit in its beta format, and it's very good. And I would say the performance of the tooling compared to Web IDE is much improved. So we shall see how this evolves. But at a first glimpse from myself and my own perspective, it works really, really good. So I just want to go back to something a gentleman said here, just to be sure we're 100% clear. He said, I'm going to read it verbatim. This is for you, Satish. We had PI, which is old. We stood up PO last year specifically for SF integration, now moving to Employee Central, and the tool of choice is SCI. So it feels like there's suddenly no role for PO. So just to confirm or to elaborate, so PO is a combination of three services underneath it: PI, Business Rules, BPM. And so PI is still there. And to Gunther's point, if you're in a situation where you're doing ground to ground, on-premise to on-premise, PI will still be a really good tool choice for that scenario. However, if you find yourself moving to the cloud and you've got a hybrid scenario where it's something in the cloud going to something on-prem, at this point you would have a choice. You could either use the out-of-the-box content using SCI, or you could use process orchestration with the cloud runtime on-premise and accomplish the same thing with our cloud-based content. So you design in the cloud, deploy on-premise. So you have a choice there, Satish. We're not going to leave you stranded for sure. Will there be libraries and SAP help added to the SAP CPI offering to make the development of custom objects in CPI more user-friendly? So I think the generic question is, are we going to get some help making CPI more user-friendly? I don't know if you're focused very much in that area, but Gunther, but you want to take a shot at that?
In general, and again, I'm always very straight on this one. There are areas where we need to become simpler, easier to use on design time level, on configuration. It's a major investment area. So we are improving the individual tools and CPI certainly as well. But also we introduced something which we call the Discovery Center, which is an environment where, we can, guide customers and partners through the adoption missions on top of cloud platform. And we give a lot of documentation, help, videos, tutorials as part of those missions in the Discovery Center. And that, of course, can also help. But baseline, will we improve the tools? Absolutely.
No, that's good. Okay, I want to answer just one more thing that was sort of asked before, and I didn't quite get to it. So, yeah, we've got and I didn't finish my thought there. So we do have the Web IDE we do have the application studio, but it's clear that if we think of these personas for people that want to build an app, you've got the people that are hands on keyboard, love writing code, they're into the details, but to the question here on Mendix, we do have another category, which is this low code offering. Mendix is still our go-to tool on that particular front. They're one of the best in the industry for low code development environments. In other words, it's very difficult to write code with a Mendix tool. And we actually have a garage session. If you go back 6 months on YouTube, you can find it, and we build an app, and you'll see there's no code present. So depending on the skill set, which is one of the places where I start with a customer, you can decide to use Mendix, low code, or you can decide to use the very comprehensive set of features and functions capabilities that we now have in Cloud Platform for doing similar things, but you will need more of a developer persona for sure. Okay, let me see here. One last question, I think, Gunther, we'll also finish up on this one. So over the summer, I think we had done some work in the HA space. Anything you can say on that before we close out the call?
Well, availability in general, high availability is a major focus for us. We invest into failover architectures big time, and we added HA implementations for most of our major services over time, and lots of news there. So especially also when we look at the implementations of Cloud Platform on the hyperscalers, of course, we make use of availability zones and other concepts from these infrastructures as well. I think there is, I'm not sure if this is a paper already, but there's work done on what are the options and major investment area for us. I think it would lead too far if we go into the different implementation types that we have and how we can expand this even into disaster recovery, a legal view, and so on. So absolutely key topic for the SAP Cloud Platform.
That's awesome. Okay, we're right at the top of my 2 p.m., which I think it's 11 p.m. for you. So I'm going to hold us right to the hour. I want to say thank you very much, everyone who came on the call again today. Quick reminder, we're back in the garage about a month out from now, November 20th, I think it was, or 21st, with the Cloud Application Programming Model. Gunther alluded to the fact that this is going to be really important for us. I would suggest that would be a good session to attend, like all of them. They're all great. But Gunther, thank you for taking the time out of your trip to India. I know it's late, so thank you very much. And we'll see everybody next time in November. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming on.
Thanks as well. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.